Today, we're going to decode a truly fascinating human behavior. We're going to reveal why that person muttering at their desk or pacing around the room having a full-blown conversation with themselves might actually be the smartest person in the entire room. We're diving deep into the hidden science behind this habit to uncover the immense cognitive power it actually represents. You know the exact scenario. Have you ever walked into an office and caught someone quietly whispering to themselves while they work through a really tough task? Or maybe you spotted someone on the subway muttering under their breath. Your first instinct was probably to look away, right? Maybe make a little joke in your head or just assume they were a bit eccentric and totally lost in their own world. We are completely conditioned to think this is abnormal behavior. But here's where it gets really interesting. There is a stark contrast between what we assume is happening and what's actually happening. While society loves to label this outward behavior as a weird quirk, or even a sign that someone is, losing it, psychological research tells a completely different story. The reality? You are watching a high IQ mind operating at absolute peak efficiency. That quiet murmuring is literally the signature of a brain working at a level most people never even notice.
Let's jump into section 1, the verbal reasoning tool.
I absolutely love how our source material describes a typical brain approaching a complex problem. Without structure, your abstract, fleeting thoughts are just floating around like loose papers in a drafty room. They're unstructured, they're chaotic, and frankly, they are incredibly easy to lose track of. For a deep processor, the mind is working at such a blazing fast pace that if they don't consciously capture those thoughts, they just blow away in the wind.
So how did deep processors manage that overwhelming speed and volume of thought? Through verbal reasoning. They take those abstract, chaotic thoughts, and they literally translate them into physical, spoken words. By speaking them out loud, they're grabbing those loose papers and filing them away into neat mental folders. This lets them maintain intense focus and ultimately solve complex problems significantly faster.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering System 2 Thinking.
So the crucial point we need to understand here is that this muttering is actually a live, real-time demonstration of something called metacognition. And metacognition is the rare, highly valuable ability to think about your own thinking. When someone is talking to themselves, they're literally interviewing themselves to evaluate their own thoughts right as they happen.
To truly grasp why this is so powerful, let's compare the two primary modes of human thinking. First, there's System 1 thinking. This is where most people operate day to day. It's fast, it's automatic, and it's based on impulsive reactions. You react first, process consequences later. But highly intelligent people? They are heavily dominated by System 2 thinking. This mode is slow, deliberate, and highly analytical. They evaluate the consequences before they ever make a single move.
When you hear someone talking to themselves, you are literally listening to System 2 taking the wheel. You might hear them say, okay, well, if I take this route, then this variable changes. But wait, does that actually make sense? They are using their own voice as a sounding board. They are actively questioning their own biases, checking their internal logic step by step, and evaluating all the consequences before acting. By doing this out loud, they are catching and preventing errors before they ever happen in the real world.
And underlying all of this is a really beautiful trait, intellectual humility. They don't just blindly assume they've got it all figured out. By constantly questioning their own reasoning out loud, asking things like, why do I believe this? Or could I be biased here? They show a deep awareness of what they don't know. And that humility is exactly the engine that keeps their minds continuously learning, adapting, and growing.
Okay, Section 3, Clearing the Mental Traffic.
High IQ minds possess something psychologists call cognitive complexity. When faced with a problem, they don't just see a simple choice between A and B. Not at all. Instead, their brain instantly generates a massive, intricate web of connections, downstream consequences, and endless alternative scenarios. As you can probably imagine, this hyperconnectivity creates an absolute traffic jam of ideas in the brain. It can be incredibly overwhelming. So verbalizing thoughts acts as a pressure valve. It's a process known as cognitive offloading. By pushing some of that processing out into the physical world through speech, they manage that traffic jam, free up precious mental bandwidth, and prevent the debilitating mental fatigue that would otherwise completely shut them down.
Now this brings us to a really fun misconception. Do not mistake a messy external environment for a messy mind. You might look at their desk and see a complete disaster. Loose papers everywhere, a leaning tower of coffee cups that literally defies gravity, but contrast that with their internal structure. Their digital files, their strategic plans, and their complex ideas are perfectly, immaculately structured.
It's a brilliant and highly efficient strategy known as selective organization. They're consciously choosing not to waste their precious, highly limited mental energy on looking neat and tidy to the outside world. Talking out loud is exactly how they preserve and manage that massive internal structure, while happily letting the totally unimportant external details, like a messy desk, just slide.
Which brings us to our final section, the ultimate mindset shift.
The big mindset shift here is realizing that the habits society often judges as weird or abnormal are frequently the exact things giving people their competitive edge. It's about realizing that you have outgrown the need to look perfectly normal to the crowd. Highly intelligent people prioritize pure mental clarity and the pursuit of truth way above putting on a social performance for the people around them.
I really want you to remember this quote from our source material. The next time you find yourself whispering through a difficult project or muttering as you try to solve a complex problem, do not feel embarrassed. Your brain isn't failing you. It is just operating on a much deeper frequency. You're busy mastering your own mind.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know the hidden genius, the metacognition, and the cognitive offloading behind the muttering, are you ready to embrace depth over display? Are you ready to stop worrying about looking a little eccentric and instead turn your own mind into a tool of real-world power? Keep decoding the world around you, and remember, sometimes the absolute smartest thing you can do is have a good long talk with yourself.